Start small and be consistent. I started a project with my niece and my nephews uh, back in 2021, 2022. So, and if you're new to this podcast, this is probably the first time you've obviously heard me talk about this. But what we did was, from a financial literacy standpoint, I talked to many different people about, I wish I had have known this information when I was younger, or I wish I had known about budgeting when I was younger. Then I wouldn't have made all these mistakes up until now. There were times in my life where I wish I had known about certain things financially that I didn't know because maybe we just weren't we didn't talk about it in the house, or we just didn't know the information ourselves. So how can an adult pass you down information that they don't know about? So my thing was is I was going to take that excuse away from my son and my niece and my nephews, to teach them just different little small things about financial literacy, about investing, about budgeting, about debt, about credit, all those things. So what we do is we jump on a call every month. Before the month starts, I give them 5 questions. Those 5 questions they need to send back to me answered. What is a budget? What is credit? What is debt? What is the interest rate? Just different things, small things that they're going to need as adults. But if they learn the information at a young age, then when they get out into the world, they'll already be equipped with as many tools as possible. Hey, family. This is Che Willis coming back with another episode of Wealth is a Journey podcast. Guys, this is episode 84. 84 weeks of consistency, 84 weeks of getting it done, getting this information out to the world. Guys, we're growing, man. If you are new to this podcast, thank you so much for joining us. On this podcast, we talk about faith, family, and finances, among other things. If you are a return listener, watcher, or subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. Hopefully, we are adding value to your lives on the way to the M's, because as always, we are getting to the M's. Guys, we are, like I said earlier, we're moving out here. We're shaking things up. We're shaking the way people's minds work and revolve around money, revolve around budgets, taking the fear out of that word. Wealth as a Journey is getting opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to speak to different groups. And it is awesome, because that is exactly the reason why we started the podcast, is to get the information out to the world about financial freedom, taking the word again taking the fear, out of the word budgeting. It feels restrictive. It feels like I can't do certain things, which you can't sometimes, to get to your desired result. But we are just moving forward with, again, the podcast, again, with getting the word out. And because of the podcast, we're just getting different opportunities to speak. And again, that is the reason why we're doing this, to get the word out and to let people know that building wealth is easier than you think. Previous episodes, we talked about many different things that is going to get you to your desired result. For many months, we talked about mindset. We talked about different tricks that the enemy, especially the enemy in your head, is going to throw out to you, different roadblocks that you need to look out for on your way to the M's. We talked about sales. We talked about budgeting. So all of these things, I believe, are going to be different tools that you need in your tool belt to get you to your desired result. If it's wealth building, if it's weight loss, if it's being a parent, being a better friend, being a better business person, you're going to need all of these different tools in your tool belt to just be better. Today, we're going to talk about another tool that you will need in your tool belt, and that is habits, building good habits, how to start building better habits so you can get to your desired result. Because I believe that there's more ways to be wealthy than just financially. And this is a financial literacy podcast. However, if you're not looking to be wealthy, or you're just looking to be better with money, or being a better, again, parent, whatever the case may be, these things that we're talking about on this podcast and different episodes that we've had, different guests that we've had, will help you to get to your desired result. Now, on other people's platforms, other social media, or YouTube, or if you were hearing somebody, talking on TikTok, whatever the case may be, you'll hear people talking about getting to the bag, uh, making millions of dollars, making just different business transaction that's going to get them to their desired result. And that's cool, but the budget piece is the key, in my opinion, to getting to your desired financial result. And you may say to yourself, fam, listen, I get it. I don't want to hear about budgeting. I don't want to hear about that. But my question to you, if you're saying that, is how do you invest money over time that you don't have? How does that happen? The reason that we talk about budgeting so much on this platform is because it gives you the ability to tell your money where to go. If you're new to this podcast, we're not talking about budgeting for budgeting's sake. Back in the days, if you heard your parents or anybody talk about budgeting, you would tend to think that I can't spend money, or I'm just budgeting to save money, just to save the money. No, we're not doing that. What we're doing and what we're talking about is lowering, putting your money together, all of your expenses, all of your income, anything that you have left over, you're paying down your expenses. You're building an emergency fund. So then when emergencies comes, you're not swiping your credit cards. Also, you're lowering your expenses because anything that you don't have to continue to pay, like credit cards, car payment, student loans, things of that nature, you get to keep the money. And then when you get to keep the money, then you can invest the money. And then when you invest the money, you don't have to work as hard when you get into your latter years. I'm sure we all know somebody, family member, friend, coworker, that has to work, because they didn't set things up before. And if they didn't know that that's what they had to do to create this life that they wanted to live later on, that's not a problem. But I believe that if we're paying attention, we can learn lessons from the people who came behind us. I'm sorry, who are in front of us, or people that are maybe older than us that didn't necessarily make the financial decisions that they needed to make because they didn't know. So now that you know that, now you can make informed decisions on how you can move better than they may have because they didn't have the information. Now that you have the information, there is no excuse for you to repeat that pattern if it's somebody who was in your house, whatever the case may be. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's exactly why we talk about budgeting. Because at the end of the day, like, you can get, let's just say you have an inheritance, somebody leaves you $1 million. But if you don't tell your money where to go, and you're not having that money make you more money, then the likelihood of you running through that $1 million in the course of a year, 6 months, 2 months, it's very high. So it's better for us to make better financial decisions now when we don't have a lot of money. So when we do have a lot of money, we know exactly what to do to make that money double, triple, quadruple, so forth and so on. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's what we're talking about on this podcast, and I believe that getting to the bag is cool, but what we need to do, we need to make sure that we're not necessarily going after the spectacular, the grand thing, and we need to focus on what I like to call just getting on base. Anybody who knows about baseball knows that the home run is sexy. Like you hit a home run, everybody stands to their feet, they're oohing and ahhing. Look how far the ball's going. But we don't focus on just getting on base. Just getting on base is going to be the thing that's going to get you the score, that's going to get you the run, if that makes sense, if anybody knows about baseball again. Because if you're getting on base all the time, those scores are going to end up adding up for you. And if you're just looking for the home run and you keep striking out, that is going to discourage you. However, if you're focused on getting on base and then you keep getting on base, you're building these little habits, just getting on base, then getting to the next base, getting to the next base. Now you're home. Getting on base again, getting on base again, getting on base again. Now you're home. And you're building up the momentum, you're building the habits that you need to build your score or build your financial freedom number or build your business. We have to keep getting on base and not focus on the home runs all the time. I think a lot of times that's what we're focused on, and we get discouraged once we swing, we strike out, we swing, we strike out, and then you're like, you know what, this budgeting thing is not for me, or this business venture is not for me. When all you really need to do, instead of swinging for the fences, is just build those habits that's going to get you to the next thing. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not necessarily going and thinking about the grand thing, but we're starting small and we're just focusing on getting on base. Once you once you get on base multiple times, then it's going to give you that confidence that you can do the next bigger thing, if that makes sense. So what I mean by that is you hear on people's platforms, you hear on social media about people, trading options, let's just say, and how much money they're making trading options. Or they buy a property and then they put a little bit of money into it and they flip it for this big profit.
Are you tired of living paycheck to paycheck? Are you tired of using your credit cards as an emergency fund? Are you still paying for that vacation that you took 2 years ago? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, I'm here to help. My name is Che Willis, and I help families living paycheck to paycheck live the life that they want to live through budgeting and investing. And listen, I get it. The word budget can be scary. However, if done the right way, it can yield some sexy results. All we're trying to do is lower your expenses so you'll have more money to invest. So if you have any questions, concerns, or issues with budgeting, please go to wealthisajourney.com and book a call today. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
But what I'm talking about is if we're not lowering our expenses to then put the money into being able to invest, then we're missing the whole picture here. So my thing is that what I want people to understand is that if you're lowering your expenses, you get to keep the money. That's getting on base. Let's lower our expenses. That's getting on base. Then we look for different vehicles that can make our money, make us more money. That's getting on base as well. And then once we invest the money and see our money grow, that's getting on base. Now we can go for the home runs because we understand where our money's going. We understand that our expenses are lowered now and we have a budget together. And now we're focused on knocking things out of the park. So let's just again, let's focus on the small little habits that we need to adopt, the small habits that we need to start, and then we can worry about the grand things. And I understand that like some people are in a bad financial situation. What I'll tell you is that if you're not learning the lessons along the way of getting out of your situation and you just want the problem to go away, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to make, you're going to continue to make bad decisions. What do I mean by that? Say you have a ton of debt, and then you go to, you hear this commercial on the TV, and it's talking about debt consolidation and we can lower your payments and things of that nature. When really you may be able to just lower your debt if you just set the budget up and not have to go to this debt consolidation place because you just want the problem to go away just like that. And if you set your own budget up and then you start paying off your creditors, you start you start paying things down, then you'll understand the lessons that you need to learn along the way. But if you go to the debt consolidation place, what exactly did you learn? So you don't repeat the habits, the patterns that got you into that place in the first place. All right, listen. Uh, we're going to talk now. We're just going to talk about the building the habits. So this podcast again today is about building better habits to get you to your desired results. We have 3 ways to build better habits. Number one way is you have to identify your why. I do budget consulting. I help people with budgets, if you don't know. My first question before we get started always is what is your why? Why are you doing this? Why do I ask that? I ask that because the why is going to have to stay in the forefront of your mind because you will want to quit. When you first start budgeting, when you first start anything that's unfamiliar, that's uncomfortable for you, you will have the tendency to want to quit. Why? Because it's uncomfortable, it's new, and you know it's going to work, but something in the back of your mind is telling you, yo, this is not working because it doesn't feel good. So we have to identify the why. Maybe it was you want to build up your wealth because you know how it feels not to have or not to grow up with money. Or maybe you want to lose weight because you know how it feels to be overweight or unhealthy or something of that nature. But you have to keep the why in front of you because you will want to quit something new, something that's uncomfortable. But you have to understand that that is going to be the driver to keep you focused, to keep going. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to not having. I don't want to do that. So that may be my why. Your why may be you know how it feels not to grow up with your parents. So you're going to be the best parent that you can be. That may be your why. And that is going to be the driver that's going to keep you being a better parent. So hopefully that makes sense. So number one is identify your why. Number two, start small and be consistent. I started a project with my niece and my nephews uh, back in 2021, 2022. So, and if you're new to this podcast, this is probably the first time you've obviously heard me talk about this, but what we did was from a financial literacy standpoint, I talked to many different people about, I wish I had have known this information when I was younger, or I wish I had known about budgeting when I was younger. Then I wouldn't have made all these mistakes up until now. There were times in my life where I wish I had known about certain things financially that I didn't know because maybe we just weren't we didn't talk about it in the house, or we just didn't know the information ourselves. So how can an adult pass you down information that they don't know about? So my thing was is I was going to take that excuse away from my son and my niece and my nephews to teach them just different little small things about financial literacy, about investing, about budgeting, about debt, about credit, all those things. So what we do is we jump on a call every month. Before the month starts, I give them 5 questions. Those 5 questions they need to send back to me answered. What is a budget? What is credit? What is debt? What is the interest rate? Just different things, small things that they're going to need as adults. But if they learn the information at a young age, then when they get out into the world, they'll already be equipped with as many tools as possible. So we get on a Zoom call, we go over the questions after they send them back answered, we go over those questions. And then in the very beginning, they got $25 to invest in whatever stock they wanted to invest in. So some of them have Tesla, some of them have Disney, some of them have ETFs, some have Microsoft, Apple, so forth and so on. And what we do after that, after the class is over, after we go over the questions, we look at their portfolio. And it's only 25 bucks. So it's small. But these little small habits that we're building for them, when they're looking at their portfolio, they're going to see the power of just starting. My niece, she's 4 years old. Her account at the time of this recording is up over $500 right now. She's 4 years old. So just think to yourself, if the dynamic in our family shifts to, instead of buying toys or buying clothes, we start buying stocks. Think about how much money she's going to have to buy or to have a down payment for a house, or to put towards college, or to buy a car. If we just if we again stop focusing on the spectacular, we think, oh, in order to be wealthy, we need to invest thousands of dollars at a time. No, that's not the case. You can start small. If I had that thinking before, then they may not have had, or she may not have had the opportunity to have the 500 bucks. So I'm telling this story to tell you that it doesn't take a lot to make a huge impact. We're on these calls for maybe 20 minutes, and then they get to invest $25. I started them off. I'm still investing for my son $25 a month. Their parents are putting the money for them, my niece and my nephews, putting the money away for them, the $25. But just think about how much money they're going to have when they become 18, 21, things of that nature. They're already going to know about investing. They're already going to know about compound interest. They're already going to know about dividends. They're already going to know about the power of starting off small. So if they continue on once they get their own jobs, how well off they're going to be. So I'm saying all that to say that we need to start small and we need to be consistent. We do this every month. So the 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 consistency, in my opinion, is going to be the cheat code for your success in any endeavor. Wealth building, weight loss, better entrepreneur, better business person, better employee, whatever you see for your life. So we don't want to discount those small little habits that we need to adopt to get us to our desired result. Number three is create your environment. Create your environment. What do I mean by that? You may not be in an environment that is conducive to you building wealth. You may not be in an environment that's conducive to you losing weight. So you have to create your environment. What do I mean by that? In previous podcasts, I've talked about me having to walk away from my environment because my environment at the time was not conducive to me being a married man. So I understood that, and not saying that, I was engaging in, shenanigans, whatever the case may be. But the point of me saying that is that if you're married and you're hanging out with single people, you can't necessarily do what single people are doing. So hopefully that makes sense. So I had to understand that, hey, if you want to continue to be married, then you may want to slow down hanging with people until you're comfortable enough not to engage in what single people do. And it may just be in having a conversation with somebody, or maybe having a drink at a bar, or overindulging in different things that may happen. So I had to walk away because it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for my health. It wasn't good for my marriage. So I had to just step off. Now, did it feel good at the time? Absolutely not. But it yielded good results because the more consistent I was creating my environment, the better off my life was for the long term. And then God blessed me with married friends who were doing married stuff, and everything was all good. But you have to identify the holes in your boat and see where, hey, you know what, maybe I don't need to be doing that because it's not lining up with where I'm trying to go. And it may be something completely different from the marriage thing that I was just talking about. You may be trying to eat better. So I lost a bunch of weight during the pandemic for various reasons. But the biggest reason was because my dad passed away from diabetes because he wasn't necessarily taking care of himself at an early age. So when I understood what was going on, I felt like I had to eat better, and I struggled with weight all my life. But that was the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge to say, hey, you really got to get better with this, or you may end up with diabetes as well, and you may pass away as well. So I had to understand that. And then I created the environment once I started small and got better building little habits. What do I mean by that? So I started off by cutting out sugary drinks. That's juices. Juices have a ton of sugar in them. And the sugar is the thing that packs on pounds, whether you know it or not, is one of the things. So I'm drinking apple juice, I'm drinking grape juice and different juices and things like that. So I cut that out. I got that down. Instead of putting sugar in my coffee, I will put stevia in my coffee, things of that nature. So just building these little habits, starting small, building these little habits, and creating the environment that I want to live in or be surrounded by, then that helped me get to my desired weight. Investing small helped me get to, or it's helping me get to my desired financial goal. So those three things, if you're not really good with habits, are going to get you started, getting to your desired life. It's not easy, but the more consistent you are, the easier it's going to get for you. So we're going to go over these three things again. The three things are identify your why. Number two, start small and be consistent. Number three is create your environment. So those are the three things that we need in order to build wealth. Now I understand that let's talk about investing. Let's talk about actually getting to the bag. But I believe if you get these mindset things down first, when you do the income producing activities, it's going to be easier for you to build on that money. Again, we don't want to go for the home run first when we haven't learned the lessons that it took to get us on base. So hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully we've learned something because, like, again, wealth is a journey. It's not quick. It's not fast, but the people who win in life are the ones who learn the lessons along the way and then execute on the lessons that they've learned from just life or from people, from other people's mistakes, things of that nature. So hopefully that has helped somebody this week. Wealth is a journey. We will see you next week. Peace.